The first thing people notice about the ride is the sound, the low hum of the engine, the wind brushing past, the city breathing. But what they don't notice is what the ride is really for. Because I didn't ride that night to go somewhere. I rode because staying still felt heavier than moving, and Riyadh was quiet in a way that only happens after midnight. Not silent, but softened. Streetlights stretching long shadows across empty roads. Buildings looking less like concrete and more like unfinished thoughts. I zipped up my jacket, even though it wasn't cold because it felt like closing a door behind me. The bike waited downstairs, patient and familiar. I ran my hand across the seat before starting it, like touching someone's shoulder just to make sure they're real. The engine came alive, and that sound did something to my chest. Not excitement or relief, but something in between, a reminder that I was still here. I pulled onto the road without choosing a direction because people think riders love freedom. But the truth is, most of us are chasing quiet, and I hadn't been quiet inside for a long time. During the day, life kept asking things from me, messages, expectations, smiles I was supposed to return, conversations that never went deep. And at night, the questions came back. Why some memories refuse to fade, why happiness feels temporary, why loneliness shows up even around people. But the road didn't ask questions. It just opened. And as I passed familiar streets, memories followed like headlights in the mirror. Remembering when riding meant easy joy, when life felt lighter and simpler, when I laughed inside my helmet for no reason, when I raced the sunrise just to feel like I was winning something, remembering her, and how she said she could always tell when I'd been riding, because I came back quieter but softer. How she once said, "Riding fixes you," and I believed it then. The road curved and pulled me out of the memory. I stopped at a red light alone in the intersection and checked my phone out of habit. No notifications, no missed calls, nothing that needed me. And sadness sat beside me quietly. The kind that doesn't scream, the kind that reminds you how strange it is to survive things you never thought you would. The light turned green and I accelerated, letting the sadness trail behind like exhaust, riding toward the edge of the city where the roads widen and the lights thin out. The wind grew cooler and honest, my chest heavy with thoughts of unfinished conversations, of my father and words left unsaid, of friendships that faded not from fights but from silence, of happiness arriving quietly and leaving unnoticed, until I pulled over at a small fuel station, not because I needed fuel, but because my chest felt full. Another rider nodded at me, and I nodded back. No words needed, stars struggling against the city glow. And for a moment, happiness surprised me, small and warm, like realizing I was okay right now, like understanding life hadn't turned out as planned, but hadn't abandoned me either. Sadness returned, but didn't replace it, sitting beside it instead, because sadness and happiness aren't enemies. They coexist. You can miss someone and still be grateful, hurt, and still hope, broken and still moving. I started the bike again and rode back toward the city, noticing small things I'd ignored before. A stray cat, a bakery light, a man sweeping the sidewalk like the night mattered, realizing life was still happening quietly. And maybe the ride doesn't erase pain but gives it space to breathe. Near my neighborhood, I slowed, part of me not wanting the ride to end, because when the engine stops, the world rushes back, expectations and roles and familiar versions of myself. But another part of me felt ready. I parked the bike and sat there listening to the engine cool, thinking about tomorrow, about messages I'd avoided, forgiveness I owed others and myself, thoughts that felt unfinished but lighter. Inside my apartment, I set the helmet down gently, like it had carried something fragile, watched the city from the window as it felt kinder than it had during the day, realizing the ride didn't fix me or solve anything. But it listened when I didn't have words, stayed when others couldn't, carried me when standing still felt impossible, and sometimes that's enough. And as sleep found me with the first hint of morning, Happiness didn't